screen. Let me share my screen. Good. Okay, so we are in the second part. Well, lecture 2, national identity and sports. The case of Lithuanian basketball. You know, if I may start from a story from the year 2002, well, terribly, around 20 years ago. It's terribly old story, but nevertheless, I was asked to conduct a research on basketball and national identity. So my colleague at that time from Lithuanian Physical Education Academy, my first university where I worked and spent 25 years of my life. So you can imagine it's my like a home institution. We've been conducting this research and published an article in the year 2004 in the International Sport History Journal. Until now, this article is getting some references, some citations, some good position in a world scientist community. So yeah, at that time I was big of enthusiasm to prove to the world, and to discover why we being such a small nation having such a great basketball result. And for me was not only a research interest. Being myself as a basketball player, I still do have a big passion, of this game. Of this game, because I hope you do understand that this game is in my blood, very simply. But getting older, and because of the experience, because of each time talking about identity and sports with a basketball example, each time it gives more added value. It gives more credibility about the fact what I am saying. It's not only discovered, findings. It's not only discovered truths, but this is more. It's something really more. So I can't tell you how many universities, how many invitations I've get to read this, particular topic. And not only at the university's level, I do remember myself in the year 2010, I was invited to one of the conference by my French colleagues in Brussels, in a huge conference, which was around 400 people with 7 different languages, interpretation, and so on. And I was asked just before World Cup, because World Championship, because in the year 2010, it was a World Basketball Championship, Men's World Basketball Championship. And we've been granted, or we won a 3rd place with the bronze medals, and that was in the autumn, and the conference was in February, and I was invited to give a speech, and the audience, well, they were politicians. there were politicians, there were scientists, there were, you know, some you know, decision makers and so on. And you know, I made a tricky presentation saying that if you are willing to hear the secrets, what are our secrets as a small nation to be on the top in the world, I will never ever tell to you. And the only what I can tell that money is not an issue. Money is not an issue. Because, you know, usually we speak about money, about infrastructure, about the other issues which are really important, sure, but this is something else. So I would try to give you some insights to this rather interesting, rather important, but at the same time, rather quite difficult issue. So the role and importance of basketball in Lithuania. Actually, the one topic, the one you know, main line. And when I remember when I was in Finland, you know, so at the University of Jyväskylä, so we've been having a great debate, you know, with the students, because students, they were from the other European countries, from Italy, from Belgium. We did have international student seminar, and they presented their national identity sports, you know, on the table. So again, the question for you, you know, what sport might reflect your as Ukrainians national identity nowadays, okay? But again, this is an issue of the history. This is an issue of the historical reflective context. We didn't grow basketball as a national pride during the year or 10 or 20. It comes really, really much earlier. So this presentation will be, you know, figures and you know, pictures and more life and more possibly attractive. So what I've updated, you know, my knowledge on the rankings, because sure, I am not following the rankings, you know, I am not big fan, you know, currently, but I do keep very close contact with the Lithuanian Basketball Federation, with some, you know, coaches and some players and some my friends and my former students. Mindaugas Špokas, current Basketball Federation president, General Secretary, because president is our greatest basketball player with the Sabonis. So Mindaugas Špokas is my former student, and another stories behind I will tell you later on. So I keep more, you know, professional interest of supporting, helping, or consulting federation nowadays. So ranking keep during the last 2-3 years, you know, our eighth position among 10 worldwide countries. So even yesterday, I've checked how many inhabitants Serbia has. So 3 times more than Lithuania. 3 times more than Lithuania. So I don't speak about the other greatest countries and achievements which are on your left side, you know, starting from Olympic Games and World Championships and European Championships. So yeah, 37, 38, 37, 38. So at that time, before Second World War, we started to build our history. But in fact, our history will celebrate 100 years of Lithuanian basketball next year, the next slide. So yeah, we used to be in the 6th place several years ago, but again, this is not an issue. The 5th or 7th or 8th or 10th place but the countries which are on the top, top world countries in terms of economic power, in terms of inhabitants and so on. The figures tells you without any big comments. So, couple of slides with a historical background. I can't start with identity without that. So, yeah, the official match, the first official match, basketball match in Lithuania took place in April. So this is April 23. This is official birthday. So next year, big celebration. Next year, big celebration. But what is very important, and this is what I've been asked by French Basketball Federation, and they organized a great conference. When I've been asked by French Federation to make a research about women's basketball. Men's, yes, we have a great results. About women's. So my colleague, Daiva Majauskienė, and my current doctoral student, Mindaugas Gobikas, we made the research and we made an article and presentation, and well, article is in French language, sorry. We had to translate it, and this is in a French publication. But the issue and the interest is about women's basketball. And why I'm telling this story, because by the historical chronicle, women started to play basketball the first, in spite of the fact that in the year 2026, the book Basketball Game and the official basketball rules was prepared by Steponas Darius. This is a person he's a Lithuanian, but he used to migrate to United States. And one day when he decided to come back to his homeland, he brought this book. And we count him as one of the official beginners of this game. So we've seen that women started to play basketball the first and the men started the second. While women were playing, men were making different jokes about stupid women trying to manage the ball, and well, I can't translate you into English language, but there is a regional slang, and those different words, mean very much, when old people speak how the other person do something not nice things. So men always were pointed out that those stupid women, crazy women, something not understandable trying to play and manage the ball. I mean, because the ball wasn't the ball what we're using today. Okay, this is again. So, but definitely the book and the rules were not enough. We needed what? Infrastructure. So the palace of physical culture, again, this is a big history how the palace was made. People were collecting money and different campaigns there were at that time. So the palace was built, and the European Championship, where we won the gold medal in '37, it was held in Kaunas, in that palace. And the palace still, we keep it as our heritage, our sporting heritage. Currently, it is under the reconstruction, but well, this is a great historical value. So yeah, we became a member of FIBA in the year 1933, and our membership was restored in 1991. Currently, as you already have seen, as for the figures for athletes, preparation centers or sports schools, that among kids and youngsters, basketball is still the most popular sport in terms of participation. Well, there is a big issue during the comments from the Football Federation that football overcomes basketball and football become much more popular during the age of the kids and youngsters under the 19. Well, possibly, might be. I'm not very much in a confront with this saying, but the ambitions of Football Federation is not only to overcome basketball in terms of participation, but at the same time, to overcome in terms of the results. But the second part is really very bad dream, because, well, they will never ever become among 10 FIFA ranking teams in the world. So this is, nothing to say and nothing to comment. Okay, so some figures, interesting figures. Well, the federation unites 135 legal members. So sport schools, sport clubs, different associations, players associations, coaches associations, they compose the legal membership. As you can understand, it has a right to vote. By the way, Basketball Federation currently, they are preparing the new elections, because the term of Sabonis as a president and Mindaugas Špokas as a general secretary is going to an end. So the new power, the new faces, the new people will come to the management of the federation and to the management of basketball quite soon. So there are 9 leagues, and leagues composed with the different clubs. So there is a national league, Lithuanian basketball league, but there are regional leagues, there are women's leagues, and so on and so forth. What we do have very unique, this is really by FIBA recognized, that we have a unique school children basketball league. So this is up or down top, up top approach is completely realized. So we have, and where is the popularity and where we keep, the traditions and grow our talents. So in that unique school children basketball league, there are 400 teams with more than 6,000 young players in 7 age groups between 12 and 19. So this is, and that league is managed by the concrete person from the federation who is a staff member of the federation. By the way, my former student, so send best regards to him. Well, according to federation statistics, because that was an issue for many years, how many basketball players are recognized by the World Federation? So several years ago, it was a great initiative to have a licensed, system. And because it is paid few euros, I cannot say you the concrete amount right now, But that was a big issue, and of course, as with any innovative solution, there are some supporters and some people who see the only negative things all around. So the issue was why we have to make license to basketball player, and why we have to make such a strict calculation, statistics, and so on. Yes, we have to make statistics. We have to make evidence-based policy and decision-making processes. So they have now figures which might be more than officially licensed basketball players, but at least there is some good step forward in terms of management policy and political managerial decisions. And more than 440 full-time coaches. I'm a little in doubt about full-time. Our research many years ago. So research is not very much in place, but I'm really in doubt about full-time coaches, because our research revealed that almost between 40 and 50% they were part-time coaches. So at that time, the president of the federation was not Sabonis, and we've discussed with our coach Vladas Garastas, and Vladas Garastas, when he found out that almost half of the coaches are part-time, he was really disappointed, saying how it might be, how we can achieve highest sporting results when our coach works part-time, because the other part he works somewhere else. It is fine if he or she works in the school as a physical education teacher or in a job which is connected with the sport. But if he or she works in the market where sells carrots or potatoes, and in the afternoon he goes to train basketball players, this is not an issue. Okay, and again, there are more than 100,000, more, definitely more. But how to calculate? Well, this is official information from the federation. So, from a sociological aspect, in terms of role and importance of basketball in Lithuania, it could be said that we find out several phenomena which should be taken into consideration. First of all, as you already saw in my previous lecture, if we do have a relatively low participation in the country, okay, in sport in general, basketball is not the case. So basketball is actually played everywhere and by everybody. So different nice cultural initiatives took place during the last years. For example, it was idea to run or to drive through the villages, small cities, and so on, and to count how many baskets are prepared or places prepared. First of all, outdoor places to play basketball. So there are almost in every home, in every household, yard. In my place where I live, there is a basket as well. Well, it's very old. My husband says we need to change to the new one. But this is, again, if you have free time or some minutes, you just take ball, you shoot, and you do some your everyday routine work. Okay, so this should be taken into consideration. Secondly, cultural phenomenon, and this is cultural phenomenon when my master student, very bright student, Mindaugas Damianaitis, he made an investigation about the basketball as a tool of the soft power. I'm not going into details about this investigation. There is an article in English you might read and get into deeper, but this is something what, according to Nice, if I remember well, there are 5 soft power items to conduct soft power index. And one of these soft power index items is culture. And under the culture, there is a sport. But sport is measured and counted only the results towards participation in Olympic Games and FIFA rankings. So Mindaugas was striving to get into the small countries' examples and to show that specific sports like a basketball to Lithuania brings soft power index even bigger if to take into consideration the calculation of certain achievements. So again, during my presentation, I just should ask you to accept that this is a truth. About national identity and pride, we will speak in a minute. And next one aspect, strong network of personalities. Strong network of personalities. So people who used to play basketball and who are still playing, so former players, current players. Former players, they are currently great business people, they're great politicians. Current players, they are giving a feedback through the different foundations and through the support schemes to the different societal needs. Former players, they do have their foundations, the name foundations. For example, Kaukenas, one of our greatest players who was educated sometime in his life in United States. He came back and he played many years for national team, and he is now very, very active in terms of charity. So he has his own foundation, and every week or every second week, you can hear different activities of him. And other former players, current players, they are coming and they're doing great things. So yeah, in my hands there is a book, but this is in the list of references. This is one of the newest book where there is a chapter about Lithuanian and sport. So more in-depth insights you may read and find out interesting facts, about basketball development in Lithuania. By the way, I think this is a book, well, I'm just promoting because this is what I will be speaking. It's written more in depth, but this is the first book, by the way, the first book about sport, statehood, and transition in Europe. So comparative perspectives from post-Soviet and post-socialist societies. So you can find different, post-socialist countries, not only Poland, Croatia, Hungary, but such a countries like Ukraine, by the way, Ukraine, Albania, Yugoslavia, Georgia, and so on, who made their chapters to understand how the transition period was important and how it was run through the life of Spain during the last 20 or 30 years. And final sociological aspect is, not very positive connotation, I should say. This is the attitude other sport disciplines towards basketball. The impression, and not only impression, this is a reality. Now we listen and hear and see less and less such an expression, but still there, blaming basketball like a sport which takes all money from sport and other sports are out of the border or behind far more the basketball development. But this is because basketball is taking all money from the state, from the state budget. First of all, we're speaking about public funding. So I can prove by the figures, and I can tell you by the truth, because it's a real truth, that currently federation, and this is a very nice dynamics, during the last, I can say 8-10 years, that from government, basketball is receiving less and less money every year. Currently, the composition of basketball federation, it goes like that. 35% comes from government, 75% federation accumulates from the private sources. So this is nothing about the stories that federation is funded millions of euros from national budget. This is not the truth. But still, not positive, as you can understand, not positive, but rather negative attitude towards basketball is bringing time to time from the other sport disciplines. Okay, so national identity and pride. Nation, culture, and sport. Nation, culture, and sport. Okay, from the very common definition, nation is a human community which is formed on the basis of common history, language, territory, and economic life. Okay, culture, and we recognize sport as a part of culture. So culture is the way of people, including their attitudes, values, beliefs, arts, sciences, modes of perception, how we understand culture, and habits of thought and activity. Habits of thought and activity. What do we like the most? So I do like the most play basketball in my garden. I don't play football. I don't play volleyball, but I play basketball because this is my habit. Okay, and sport. Okay, to define, we just talk, but the only to repeat that sport, it represents both sides. Participation in the competition, striving for the highest achievement, for the highest sporting result, and other part or grassroots sport or other all forms of physical activity which improves person's fitness and spiritual life. So how we can identify national identity and pride? What is identity and identification? We should take into consideration that identity is a self-experience. It should go through my experience. Through experience, I create self-image, who I am. And when I am able to demonstrate my experience through self-image, I reflect it with a self-representation. So this is sociological, philosophical issues, which lie as a background of understanding of unique and unified conditions of self. But self, it's not a separate. Self, it must be in a harmony with the expectations for behavioral entities required from various roles which individual should play. Individual is not only being united, because individual cannot be cut from communication and interaction. I can be self in my, I don't know, room, and even not here, because you see myself, you see my closest environment and so on. I can be myself, I don't know, in the forest alone and whatever. But human being should should reflect, should represent itself through communication and interaction. The act or process of recognizing or distinguishing something or someone, on the other hand, it is the deliberate adoption of another person's behavior or ideas as one's own. So creating self-image and self-representation, we represent ours, or we see the others and we reflect myself through the others' experiences and through the others' representation. And this is the background how we create our heroes. Our heroes in any activity, in our case, through the basketball. What kind of objects of identification, okay, identification of self, we should take into consideration? So there are a variety of objects of identification. So persons, they can be our authorities. So these can be persons like stars or heroes, and especially for kids, when everyone, if we speak about basketball, everyone is willing to be like NBA players in Lithuania. Everyone is willing to be like Sabonis. Sabonis as a father, or Sabonis as a son, you know. we're living in a very nice time where I'm very happy knowing and in person knowing Sabonis as a father and seeing how his son striving in NBA nowadays and trying, to overcome his father, So, okay, or GV, Jonas Valanciunas, the other, hero or star. And this is Sabonis during All-Star game of this year. Group of person. So we identify ourselves with a team or group. In this case, okay, I put here the symbol of Žalgiris, basketball club Žalgiris, where we identify ourselves being, and this is in Lithuanian, become an honored club member. So everyone in Lithuania can become a member of Žalgiris club. Again, this is a promotional campaign, this is a marketing tool, but if I am willing to identify myself with the Žalgiris team, I can do it. Again, this is a modern tool that's never been before when the new management staff, came to the Žalgiris club and they initiate many other good modern initiatives. Okay, things, fetishes or symbols. Symbol, yeah, we can have a symbol in our logos. We can have our symbols in colors. Okay, if Žalgiris is playing green and white, all spectators, they're green or white, it really brings something. This really brings identity, and this really brings pride to become and be part of it. Functions, professional status, okay. This is, I would like to give you an example, and this is a reality. One of my very first student from sport management program at Kaunas Lithuanian Physical Education Academy, I remember him as a student very well. After the studies, he entered the Žalgiris club. His first position was to clean the rooms. Until now, I don't know, already 25 years or more. Now he is sitting on the bench with the players, leading team in every game, and he is now in the management structure. He is one of the highest professional status person in the administration. Okay, so for him, by the way, I didn't met him for ages, and I would like, now remembering him just to speak with him, saying, how he made this identification until the highest professional status he might obtain nowadays. Of course, this is what it takes time, but this is a reality. Institutions, again, fans club, members club. So this is my example. And non-material objects, world outlook, nationality, and so on. So we are trying to get into the identity issue and to look to it from the distance. So if you are traveling around the world, And if you are, meeting other people and people asking from where you are, and you say from Lithuania, so, well, Lithuania, what it is, and so on. But if person is, know or hear something about the basketball, about the sport, and you see Sabonis or other big name, in Lithuanian basketball, the history, he says, yes. So this is non-material objects, but it recognizes your nationality and where you are from through the sport or concrete athlete. There are three aspects which are important for the relation between sport and identity. The possibility of confirming identity through sport, independent of social differences. So identity through sport, through concrete sports, in our case, basketball. Second aspect, the use of qualities and abilities in sport without consequences, where regardless of the rules for tolerance and considerations valid in ordinary reality. So the use of qualities and abilities. So qualities and abilities not only in a physical terms. Physical terms, okay, but on the other hand, there are administrative terms, managerial terms, political terms. So basketball nowadays, with a structure as a federation, where I work around 20 full-time staff members, okay, full-time personnel. This is, well, probably the second biggest federation in terms of human resources. The bigger is a football federation, but here we speak about, qualities and abilities. It means of professional competences to run the sport, the basketball itself. And thirdly, the boundaries between the formation of identity in everyday life and the world of sport. So to formation identity and keeping it during the everyday life with the historical memory to remember who we are, where we came from, and who are those players, coaches, leaders who made this sport possible. And through the basketball as a sport, we are a country which know all world. So identity and can be analyzed only within a specific individual environment interaction. Okay, so we are here in our homeland, in our Lithuania, and we form this phenomenon based on our historical roots. So sport is, from the one hand, is a relatively clearly defined social system, which could serve the formation of identity in a special social context. So this is a meaning of what we've been strong during the Soviet period, because our basketball players, men's basketball players, first of all, men's basketball players, they always, in a different Soviet Union teams, they were part of the Soviet Union teams. Through the 50 years of being in the Soviet Union, and especially in the year 1988, Seoul Olympic Games, where USSR team won the gold for out of 5 players, they were Lithuanians. Okay. So the major question is how the dynamics of basketball and national identity could be analyzed. So basketball actually is the sport where we reflect ourselves and where we recognize it as a national game, and even more, sometimes we call it as a second religion. So, well, the impact of basketball to the formation of national identity through the, study what we've been able to produce in the year 2004, we came to the statement that a nation is united not only its common history or political and spiritual responsibility, but also through the collection of forms and symbols that make their action meaningful and help to understand each other. Through the collection of forms and symbols. So this is what we managed to bring to the European Men's Basketball Championship in the year 2011. The great story, the great achievements, and I am going to share with you. Here you see the new logo. Well, it's not new itself, 1-2 years ago. This is Lithuanian House of Basketball. We officially call Lithuanian Basketball Federation, but in fact, the webpage and the positioning federation itself, it's House of Basketball in Lithuania, the Lithuanian House of Basketball, and this is, well, our flag. So I am bringing you to the almost 10 years ago, showing, well, the book. Don't remember. Symbols, okay? Forms and symbols. Form was championship. Symbol. What symbols do you see in this slide? What symbols do you see in the slides? Those symbols are our first letters, runos. Each letter, each symbol, okay? Each symbol represent, the very, very, very old history of the state, and those first letters, runos, are incorporated into the game basketball, and into the event what we managed to arrange with the highest degree of political, managerial, organizational, financial, marketing and advertisement, and other tools. So few slides just to keep you alive, and some interesting facts and figures. 2,000 volunteers, actually 1,600, those who were involved in not organizing, but realizing the championship. We've been streaming to the record where 61,000 fans were bouncing basketball at 12 o'clock of that day. So it is a Guinness record at that time to bounce 61,000 balls. This is a nicest part of the story. The worst part of the story was when all those balls were shipped from China with a boat, and all they were transported to the storage. And when we needed to put air in that ball, that was something. People there were working, 48 hours, to prepare all balls to be bounced. So that is a nice story. 240,000 spectators, okay, were calculated in terms of ticket sales and occupied places in the arenas. It was unbelievable, record in terms of ticket sales, because 75%, that was the highest percent ever in any European men's basketball championship, tickets to be sold out. And different marketing schemes were used for the first time, and we managed to with a situation. So the highest people, this is a Queen of the Spain, our former president, Dalia Grybauskaitė, and Juan Carlos, the king of the Spain, came to the final game of the Spanish national team, where they won the champions title in the very end. Well, there were a lot of great national celebrities. Not only the mascot, which been representing the amber, but the special song was created for the time being of the championship, and different social activities and actions took place during the period of championship. That was the time when FIBA Europe decided to expand the number of teams from 16 to 24. So our championship duration was prolonged, and that was a big pressure for local organizing committee, and in terms of resources and other issues to be solved. And what I have in my hands, this is a book. What I've been able to write, but this is not a simple book. This is a scientific study where I was asked by, at that time, local organizing committee leader, the head of the committee, and serving, as a general secretary, Mindaugas Špokas, I was asked to complete a research about learning experiences during the championship. So can you imagine 20 people? 20 people. Local organizing committee was composed by 20 people who made possibly this championship in the highest quality, in the highest way, to show us what really basketball means to the country and to every single Lithuanian. So personal responsibility makes the best use of personal and professional competences the ability to learn and teach others. So these processes, preparation stage, organization and delivery stage, and evaluation stage, required not only a strong will, commitment, creativity, but also spiritual strength and self-sacrifice. So 20 people in my study were interviewed before the championship. 8 of them, they were interviewed during the championship, because championship was organized in different cities and they were leading, you know, in those cities. And after championship, those 20 people, they were interviewed once again. So that was a qualitative study, which was in great help and support of the federation. So we managed to conduct the study and to write that. So why I say study to be continued? I have an idea, and I hope it will be realized in autumn term, to come back to those 20 people who made the European Men's Basketball Championship the national pride, and to look to their professional pathway during the last 10 years. For sure, 2 or 3 people after the Men's Basketball Championship, they were the highest professional level ever. And a couple of them, they just left Lithuania because there were no job opportunities for them to progress further on. And here you see Lina Skliza, one of our, at that time, member player of national team. And these are my former students, because I had 4 students as a volunteers who helped me to record the interviews and to make transcription. So that was my great group. We've been traveling around Lithuania. So coming to the end, very end, and House of Basketball. I've already mentioned you the House of Basketball, where the history and modernity meet. It is already open. This is in a unique old city place, the land and the building. The land were 2 rivers, because Kaunas is a city which is built on 2 rivers flows. And on that land, in that place, there is a land which, by the way, was bought based from the money or from the resources generated from the Men's Basketball Championship. And all building is already made and it's functioning. So Basketball Federation, different offices, rooms for seminars and meetings, the catering services. But this is the smallest part. The biggest part is the museum, the interactive museum, which is now still is going to be prepared, and the official opening will be with a celebration of 100 years of basketball next year. The museum will be a unique stuff because the highest specialists from United States, they are making the internal high tech and high touch of this unique sport, basketball. So that is really very end. Again, symbols, colors, and well, special thanks to the Basketball Federation for the opportunity to create the history, to be part of it, and carry out continuous research journey. So being as a basketball player, to transfer my knowledge and skills in terms of research and consultations and expertise, this is what keep myself communicating and going forward, thus bringing national identity and pride of our small country to the world. Thank you for your attention. This is the end of my second lecture of